So let's talk about Paul George. There's been a lot of conversations about him this week because of his statements he made about the Clippers and why the contract did not work out and why he ultimately landed with the 76ers. Now, my first initial thoughts of his conversation on the podcast was, bro, you are not a number one option. The way he was talking on the podcast, he made it sound like I deserve this money and I need to get paid like I'm some LeBron James, Stephen Curry type of player. And I get it. You should get your money. I'm all about getting your contract and getting your bag. I understand that. But my pushback is this. When he came to the Oklahoma City Thunder and he interviewed on the JJ Redick podcast, he said it himself that he's okay with being a second option for a championship level team, that he's okay with taking the back seat and having somebody else lead the team to an NBA Finals and to win a championship. So I'm thinking, cool, awesome. You're understanding as you have grown and matured that you might have to make some adjustments. And even when you were the Clippers, you were not the best player on that team. So we're going to play the clip of what he had to say. And I'm going to react to him and give you more of my thoughts.
Just to put it out there, like, I never wanted to leave LA, right? Initially, I was not trying to leave LA. LA is home. This is where I wanted to finish at. I wanted to work as hard as possible to win one in LA. Like, that was the goal, to be here and be committed to LA. As it played out, though, like, the first initial deal was, I thought, kind of disrespectful, right? And again, in all of this, no hard feelings, no love lost, no, like, it's a business, like you said. So the first initial deal was like 2 years, 60. So I'm like, whoa. 2 years, 60?
Hey, that's crazy, bro.
That's great.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So I'm like,
Wow.
no, I'm not signing that. Like, now we're getting into the negotiating. Like, no, I'm not taking that deal. And so they saying this, that, like, you know, we want you and Kawhi here long term. Like, we want y'all to be here, all of this stuff, right? So then, you know, as we're continuing to negotiate as the season goes on, and mind you, this was started before the season started. So this was kind of like, I could be wrong on actual timing, but this was maybe like October-ish, when negotiations first started, and it was 260. And as we kept going, it was like, you know, they would go up, you know, inches, to where it was like 44, 45, right? But this was like a couple months in between before we got it to 40-something. So I'm still like, nah, I'm not doing that. Then I hear wind of, like, you know, what they're going to give Kawhi. So I'm like, just give me what Kawhi got. Like,
Right.
y'all view us the same. Like, you know, we came here together. We want to finish together. I'll take what Kawhi got. Like, no
cool with
problem.
that.
I was cool with that. Like,
Wow.
and we were still taking less. We were taking less.
Wow.
Kawhi took less. I was like, if Kawhi gonna take less, I'm not gonna say I want more than Kawhi. Like, I'm not gonna, like, it's not about me being paid more than him. Like, I'm gonna take what he got. Y'all give him that, give me that. They didn't want to do that. So this was before the All-Star break. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want, like, let's not even have no more conversations. Like, let's just play this year out. Cause it was starting to get into like my mood. Now I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to have that energy carry over into the team.
On the court.
So, cause I could see it starting to bleed a little bit into the team, where I was just like disconnected. I ain't want to, nobody, like, I was kind of just, you know, kind of to myself a little bit. So I was like, man, let's just let this play out. Let me get to the end of this year, and we'll discuss this again. We'll pick up, you know, conversations again. So we do that, right? Season in, I finished healthy. 74 games played.
Yep.
And had one of my most efficient seasons. So now we go into negotiations. Now they bring it to 3 years.
Where we at?
150. So basically around what they gave Kawhi. So a part of me was still like, all right, that's cool. It sucks that it had to get to this point, like that we couldn't get this figured out a lot sooner. But
Way early, right?
now we at the end of the year, 3 years, 150. So I'm like, all right, like now we're in a ballpark. You know what I mean? Now we can have conversation here. And again, it still wasn't about the money. Because when I went back to have the negotiation at the end of the year, I presented the 150 no trade. Because in the meeting, they're like, we want you here long term. We want to, when you're retired, we want you to be a Clippers for a lifetime, like all of this stuff. We want you to be here. We want you to be a Clippers your whole career. So I'm like, cool. Give me the 3 years, 150, no trade then. Like no trade clause. Then I'm taking less, but at least I know I'm here.
Mhm.
Like I'm committed to y'all. Like they didn't want to do the no trade.
Do that?
Wow.
So then now I'm like, all right, well then it only makes sense for me to do 4 years, 212, right?
Yeah.
Like at least pay me my money. If y'all gonna trade me, then y'all gonna trade me. But at least like now I'm not in a situation where I could have got more had I just gone to free agency. Then take this deal and then y'all could just ship me wherever I want. And then now I'm on this deal that I didn't want.
Right.
So they didn't want to do that. So then I was like, now I'm open to entertaining what's out there. And then, I mean, through the negotiations, they wasn't budging. They weren't gonna budge. I wasn't gonna budge. I thought I played well enough for them to, be like, you know what? He's a part of our future. Like, I thought I did that. I thought I earned that. Granted, we didn't win while I was there, but luck has a lot to do with that. We couldn't remain healthy as a unit. But I thought I did enough to earn
To
that.
earn that money.
They didn't want to do it. So it was just a stalemate. We came to a stale, and ultimately it was like, all right, that ship has sailed. Like at that point, it was like, man, I love Steve, I love Lawrence, but at that point, it didn't even feel right to come back with that type of energy and be comfortable playing back in LA.
So as you saw from Paul George, he felt that the Clippers did not value him enough. Now, the problem I have with Paul George was that he was going to be okay with 3 years for $150 million. That was his whole thing. He's like, okay, I want what Kawhi has. Cool. Awesome. But then they get to the negotiation table again at the end of the season, and all of a sudden you want a no trade clause? My guy, you are not Steph Curry. You are not LeBron James. You are not Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. I can go on and on with guys who probably deserve a no trade clause before you. And when you're saying that I want to finish out my career with the Clippers, that me and Kawhi Leonard built this thing, and I just want to be valued like Kawhi Leonard. The reality is you're not a number one option. You're a number two, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with your role. But when you're saying on your podcast that you don't like the 2 year $60 million, okay, cool. But then Philly offers you 4 years for $212 million. Now you're making $53 million a year. You ended up looking for a bigger contract. First, you were like, okay, I'll settle for 3 years because that's what my guy's getting. And I'm not trying to come across as if I'm all about my money, when the reality is you ended up getting more money from the Sixers. And I just don't get it here. So let's look at the Bradley Beal situation. He gets traded from the Wizards to the Suns with hopes of winning a championship. He has a no trade clause. He's not as good as Paul George, but does Bradley Beal want to get moved at this stage of his career? Probably not. That's why he has that no trade clause. So the Suns are limited with options. They can't just move him whenever they want. So imagine that the Clippers said, okay, Paul George, we'll give in to your demands. We'll give you that no trade clause. What if they need to move him in the future and they can't because they are tied to that contract? Unless Paul George says, you know what, you can move me to a different team. And that's how the owners of the Clippers are thinking about this situation. Yeah, you're great. We understand you've been here for a while, but are we going to put all of our chips on the table in hopes that we can contend and get back to a point where we can actually have a chance to reach the NBA Finals? Or we'll keep you for 3 years. You can come into the new stadium where you're going to get a lot of opportunities for yourself. And yeah, we might move you at some point, but it's still a good shot for him to get some attention, and maybe make a playoff run. You see, I'm not going to sign a 34-year-old guy and be strapped to him. That doesn't make any sense as an owner. So as I'm watching this podcast, I just feel like Paul George was contradicting himself. Because on one end, you're saying, okay, I don't want more than Kawhi Leonard because I understand I'm on a different level. But then you say, okay, I want to know trade clause after you just told your guys on the podcast that you're going to settle for 3 years and $150 million. You never said anything about a no trade clause. But since it's at the end of the season, your feelings are changing. Bro, what are we doing here? You have to understand there are levels to this. Paul George, you're an all-star player. You're a second option, maybe a third option at times. And in the playoffs, you haven't always been good. So if you don't bring the same value as a LeBron James, as a Nikola Jokic, as a Luka Doncic, as a Jason Tatum, like these guys win in the playoffs. But you've been to a conference finals. That's cool. You've been there with Indiana, and you were there with the Clippers when Kawhi went down. Not going to take that away from him. But at the end of the day, when you're 34 years old, you don't have as much leverage anymore. Now, if he has a couple titles, maybe it's a little bit different, but that's not the reality here. So for me, hopefully it works out with the Sixers. I thought this whole conversation was just another example of delusion, in my opinion. I think he's a great player, but again, you can't say one thing and then when you get to negotiation tables again, all of a sudden you want to add another incentive because you feel like, well, if you really want me here, you'll take this as the offer when that wasn't on the table beforehand. So I get why the Clippers moved on from Paul George. I totally understand it. Because why would I want to be in a situation like Bradley Beal, where my options are limited? That's just selfish in my opinion. And you didn't think about the long term. The Clippers might not ever be fully healthy, but you get a chance to still play with Kawhi Leonard and hopefully build something, yet you move on. And the reasons just were really bad, and it's not a good look to me. So yeah, that's all I have for Paul George today. Thanks for watching the video. Love to hear your thoughts on this whole situation with Paul George. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.